Right.
Hello and welcome to BOOTHCAST. On BOOTHCAST, I speak to people who inspire me about sport, business, and the winning mindset. BOOTHCAST is brought to you by Booth Training. If you want to find out more, www.michael-booth.com.au. Today's guest is the Corey Hill before the Corey Hill of Surfski paddling. Tim Jacobs is a guy I looked up to a hell of a lot when I was going through and starting paddling. He was the guy that I actually never beat in an ocean ski race, which is like the only person actually in the fields of my time that I never beat. So he's got that sort of thing on me, and I could never even get it back, and always killed me. But it was always nice to race against him. He's a 6-time or 7-time winner of the 20 beaches. He's won the Doctor twice. He won the Dubai Shaamal a couple of times as well. So he's a very esteemed paddler. He's an Olympic coach. He's done a hell of a lot of stuff in paddling, and it's great to catch up with him after a long time. So Tim, mate, thanks so much for coming on.
That's right, Boothie. Well done holding it together this time. That
Yeah,
was the first time start.
third or fourth time we started to that. Yeah, you were just making me crack up. It's like dealing with a child, as you said.
Yeah, that is, mate. That's what my attention span. I needed stimulation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise.
So what's been going on, mate? I think you stopped paddling in about 2000. Well, not stopped paddling completely, but stopped probably racing on the scene about 2015. Probably that would be correct. Like, what have you been doing since then?
Yeah, maybe. I did a couple of 20 beaches, like some local, just the local 20, because it was in my own backyard since then, I think. But yeah, didn't really travel after maybe one of the Hong Kong races, I think, was sort of my last hurrah. Yeah, I was coaching until 2017 with the New South Wales Institute of Sport, and then got out of that. Sort of, that was just a bit of a career change for a little while, and then got back into the building game. So I've been building full time since 2017.
So you're flat out building now, but let's go back a little bit and find out a little bit about you as a kid. Like, did you grow up in the surf club scene? Were you a paddler as a kid? Did you do different sports? I think your brother was a triathlete. Like, were you doing that? Like, what was your background?
Well, no skeletons in the closet if that's what you're fishing for. But no, growing up, swimming was my background. So I wasn't that great at the pool swimming. I was better at long distance swimming. So I did open water swimming. I actually won 2 Australian championships for that. I think I was like 16 and 17 in the open water 8K event. And then from there, just got into the clubbies. And then, yeah, just sort of doing all the Ironman races, some Ironman events, just the local ones. And then, yeah, got into the ski paddling at about the age of 17. So probably a bit of a late starter compared to a lot of people. But then at some point, probably around 2019, probably around 19, I got sick of sort of sitting on the beach all day, just doing a couple of races like they do for surf lifesaving. And seeing Gardner and Leachy, they were running a few events, and Dean was paddling and stuff. So I was always better at more endurance-based event, and sort of it was just something that appealed to me more, the long endurance races. So getting on a ski and going for like 16K or 24K was great. I knew what the race was. I could just turn up, do the race, and I could get out of there. I didn't have to hang around on the beach all day. So yeah, a lot appealed to me in terms of what I was more suited for, and also just in terms of it was good. It was entertaining. The backdrop where you paddle was different. The conditions are always different. You were going different places and traveling. Yeah, it was pretty good while I was young.
So do you remember your first surf ski or ocean ski race? Do you remember where you did that, and what sort of got you down on the start line that day? Was it because Bleachy and Dino were running events at that stage? Was that the Men's Health Series or something like that?
Oh no, it was before that. It was like I think Sydney Open Water sponsored it. So yeah, I think the first big race I did, I think it was the Sydney Open Water Classic, and it was down at Manly. So it was called the King of the Harbour in those days. And yeah, you start at Manly Beach, paddle around into the harbour and back. And I think I was third as like maybe like a 19-year-old or something. I remember Bags, I think, won it. He won it, and can't remember, some other Olympian was second, and I was third. It was like, oh shit, that's not bad. Just having a go at this. It's like, oh yeah, I'll see how I go. Not that far behind.
Yeah, and then was it those type of guys you're racing sort of throughout that sort of surf ski career? Was So like, was it Bags and Clint and like maybe Jeremy and those guys, or Dino was probably still racing then? Like, who were your main competition?
Main guy, those guys like Dino. Dino's been around, longer than I have. Jeremy was a really good competitor. He got into it, like he did Ironman for a while, and then got into the Surfski. Bags was always around. There was a few other Olympians. Clint was always come out for some big events, stuff like that. Dave Cassane, the old dog, he was always around. I suppose they were sort of the main ones that would sort of that were there at all the major races.
And did you have, like, when would you say your first win was? Like, what year was it? Can you give us a bit of context into, like, so when you were 20, that was 23 years ago, right?
At least. Yeah, I'm 43, mate. I'm an old dog. I'm old enough to be your father.
I know.
You behave.
Yeah, too old.
I think it was probably back in like 99, I think. Do you remember that? Were you born then? 1999.
I was eight. I was doing nippers still. I was actually doing the Wade relays. I think I was a gold medallion holder in the Wade relay with Caves Beach back in '99. So that's something I can remember.
Your legs. There is no way your legs got you in a Wade relay. Maybe an ankle relay or something like that. But it wasn't
all I can say is I wasn't carrying the team.
So probably for like 1999, I think I had sort of like a breakthrough win, and then like it's always your first win's always your hardest. Once you've won, I always felt you knew the recipe and you knew what it took to win. And then sort of after that, it became easier because you knew all the elements that you had to put together and the mindset that you needed and how hard you actually had to work to actually be in front of everyone. So it's not like, I think I can do it, and if I just do this little bit, I'll be all right. But you've really got to bust your balls and you find out how hard you can push yourself. And then, if you find yourself in front, like I said, all those elements come together and you know what it takes to win.
Yeah, I think that's sort of paramount to any sort of athlete. You've got to know, that you can win, but know that, I guess, your preparation that's led you into that potential to actually to win the race. And do you think that growing up doing swimming and surf lifesaving and those sports where you had to kind of do a lot of work, do a lot of kilometers in the pool, like every morning, like 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, or whatever you were doing as a kid, do you think that sort of helped you be that better endurance ski paddler coming into your 20s?
Nah, push your parents, mate. They used to just drop me down the coast and say, with the ski and say, find your own way home. No. Yeah, definitely. It was one of those. I was quite self-motivated, so it wasn't like I didn't need people around. Like as you know, like swimming, you'd your head's in a bucket, so there's no one talking to you the whole time and telling you to do this and do that. So like you'd get tips, you'd get stuff off the coach, but you've got to be self-motivated to do those endurance events because you do spend a lot of time on your own. So, I was quite motivated to get out there and do it on my own without too many people around. I definitely had some awesome sparring partners over the years to train with, and they helped me. Just unimaginable, just amazing guys to train with. But you need that self-motivation to get up and keep going again, even when you're tired and stuff. So I think the long distance swimming helped into the sport, and then going into the surf lifestyle and getting on a ski and just having that freedom of being actually able to get out in the ocean, see it from a different perspective where most people only see the ocean from the land looking out, like where you get on a ski and you'll be able to see it from the ocean looking in, which is quite amazing because you paddle around some amazing like headlands and environments that we do. So it was good. It was motivating in itself to get out there and do it and see how good I could actually be, I suppose.
So would you say that ski paddling is a spiritual thing for you, or it was?
No, mate, I'm an atheist. I believe in myself.
Yeah, but the ocean is your religion, then, right?
I think doing something like, especially now, like back then, it was pretty awesome to get out there and do something. I think I was quite competitive, so it's not like I didn't have anything I didn't want to like I wasn't one of those people that sort of like, oh, I've got to prove myself, but I was actually quite driven and quite competitive within myself. So, and I loved doing it. It was just awesome to get out there. So,
Yeah, well, and then when you're talking about your sparring partners that you sort of really push you to that next level. Like I know, I guess one time, like one period of my life when I was starting to ocean ski paddle, I know Jeremy Cotter was like a really big sparring partner for me. Sort of taught me to like sort of get on his wash and hold him, then try and race him in periods and that type of thing. Did you have any like older guys that you were sort of looking up and inspiring to sort of keep up with, or was it just always that you had like a little squad of a group of guys that you train with?
yeah, we had a pretty odd. We used to get on down at the Spit Bridge early mornings. Like some of these guys were phenomenal. Like they followed me. I reckon I was pretty nuts, but they followed me. So I reckon they're crazier than me. Like I'd say we're getting on the water at 4:15 tomorrow morning for a session because we've got to punch out like 26K, and like there'd be 8 guys turning up. It's like that's ridiculous. So they were all doing it, but yeah, standouts were like Mark Anderson and Nick Holt. They were the good ones that really drove me and good influence as well. So, but yeah, we had a really good squad down there for a few years down at the Spit. Dino would come along, and there'd be a few other older guys as well that were getting into it. And for themselves, yeah, their paddling was improving, so they loved it too.
And you were getting up to go at 4:15. Was that because you were working as a builder at that stage? Like, is this like we're talking about like in
Yeah,
your 20s?
yeah. So then, yeah, you had to be at work by 6:45, so you just had to fit training around work.
Yeah,
That's what, yeah, silly hours, mate.
silly hours. Yeah, the fellas over here get on the water at 5:30 in the middle of winter, and you do the whole session in the dark, and then you're getting off and the sun's rising. And you're like, it's kind of nice at the end, but the whole time you can't see. And I guess if you're paddling down at the Spit, you'd be on the harbour, and I don't think the ferries run at that time, so you would have been all right.
Yeah, the harbour was nice to paddle in the dark, but mate, it's so much more enjoyable to paddle in the light.
Yeah.
Now these days, it's got to be fair weather if I get it. I haven't paddled for probably a year, I reckon, maybe. But if I did get on, it has to be fair weather. It has to be light. I've got to see where I'm going.
Yeah.
And there has to be someone there I can talk rubbish with.
Yeah, that's the main part of ski paddling, right? Because you're talking about swimming and your head being in a bucket. Well, ski paddling has always been so social for me. Like at any stage, you can start just having a conversation. And even this year, when I haven't been training as specifically, I've been just going to training to catch up with people, and it's been great.
And that's what it's all about. I think is having that good squad and those mates around you. You can, even though you might not talk too much during the session, but there's always that BS you can talk before and afterwards and stuff like that.
So do you miss it anyway? You said you haven't paddled for over a year now. Like, is there any inkling that you sort of jump on a ski? Like, I know I think you jumped into 20 beaches last year and had a paddle.
Yeah, I did that. That was all. Yeah, I had a couple of good mates to paddle with, like leading into that, and it was like, oh well, it's a local event. I'll have a crack. And yeah, sort of surprised myself with a couple of results in that one. But yeah, that was it. It was sort of like, oh, that's enough.
It's the last hurrah. But what did you end up finishing in that race?
I think I was 5th the last time it was run, and 3rd before that. That's the one you were talking up, saying you were going to get me.
Yeah, it must have been like 2016 or something, and you were right there too, and I just couldn't get you. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to kill me. And then you retired, and you're like, I'm never racing again.
Yeah, mate, I came up. I was older than you guys. You guys were all fit. I'd done like 6 weeks of training. I was like, that'll do. And then,
No, don't remind me. I just had no excuse.
Yeah, the old dog.
The old dog. Oh, that's what you are now. So let's talk about some of the bigger races. Let's go through the Dubai Shaamal. Like that was I guess I did the last year. I think my last year must have been 2010 or 2011, and I think it might have been 2 or 3 years that they ran it, and it was kind of like the biggest race in Surfski, right? This isn't going back like nearly 10, 12 years now. And had like $130,000 US on the prize purse. Like I think first was like 25 grand US, and it was this big sort of spectacle in this vacuum. I remember, I think the second year or the third year you must have done it. You had the GoPro come off going out.
That annoyed the hell out of me.
I remember you just yelling about it. Yeah, but let's go through your first 2 and the victories. I think you won the first 2 and then Ben Allen won the last one. Can you talk us?
Yes, I think. Yeah, go on.
Oh, just talk us through the scene then.
Yeah, so it was good. So the race was run by expats. So the South African expats, Aussie expats who were living in Dubai. And for the first year it was run, no one else knew about it except the South Africans. So Oscar and David Mock went over there and cleaned house, and it was like, oh, and next thing you know, we sort of find out there's been this race. It's got 20 grand US on it, first prize. And we're like, what the hell? That's like, we want a bit of that. So next year we went, David won it again. And yeah, I got in, Hank was second, I was third. So yeah, it would have been back in 09 maybe, I think that one. And
Yes,
then,
it must have started in 07 then.
Yeah, and then the following year I won it, where we paddled from the Palm, and then I won it again the following year. That wasn't as good because the GFC hit, so the cash went down. But I don't do it for the cash. And
whatever you tell yourself, mate.
Yeah, and then Ben Allen won it in a pair of sluggos.
Yeah, I know that one.
That was amazing.
That's still the best image I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's just an ass in sluggos. Yeah. Is that what?
Especially in that heat, it was just like him coming in. I think he's claiming it in. I think he's got a Think Uno. He's got his sluggos on, just getting cooked.
Yeah, just the good old Aussie clubby, just going, yeah, this is what I'm paddling when we paddle our surf skis at home. We paddle in our dickies. And he won it in his dicky. Everyone else is in the bike pants or whatever. And it was awesome.
He's bringing back like molokai circa the 80s and 90s, just sluggos and sunnies and just the drink bottle between your legs, right?
Yeah, that's right. And just coming out with third-degree burns afterwards. So, yeah, but it was good. Like, it was an awesome race. The guys that ran it put on an awesome event. Like, they really made everyone feel welcome. There was always accommodation with the expats. So I'd love having us there. And yeah, honestly, the best paddlers in the world turn up. Like, all these Olympians were turning up to do the event as well, just because there was so much cash on it and the sponsors wanted to have them there. So you'd have Olympic gold medalists like Kenny Wallace was there. There was Eric Veris Larson and numerous other like European kayakers. And then, and then just us, the punters. It sort of like seemed a bit weird. Even it was just like, wow, we're competing against these guys who won Olympic gold medals. So.
Yeah, well, it must have been pretty cool to have that sort of depth of field, right?
Yeah, that's right. So for that, it was probably the biggest race we've had in terms of the profile of the athlete that was there across the board, from flat water to surf ski to marathon kayaking and stuff. So,
it must have been incredible. Event. And then to win that, what was that like? Obviously, at the time, it was kind of like winning the biggest race in the sport, because it would have been, I guess, the money tends to draw the best athletes, as you're talking about, there's different demographics of paddlers coming together to race each other. And that would have been pretty cool to sort of put your name on that trophy twice. Yeah,
it was probably the only race where I sort of got a little bit emotional and choked up a little bit when I called Renee afterwards. Because it was like, holy shit, it's like Renee, I've won. It was like, I didn't really sink in. I was so pumped. It was really, it was awesome. It was a great one. So like I said, probably the only one I've choked up a little bit when I called home to tell her I'd won that one. So yeah,
well, it just shows how much it meant to you, and it just shows like the sort of the esteem that you get let in. And I guess for someone like me who was just starting Surfski at the time and seeing you cross the line first, I think it must have been the first year I even knew about the sport, knew about the event. I was like, oh geez, Tim's like the best in the world, right? Because it wasn't necessarily, there wasn't actually probably a world championships at that stage. Like, you had the big events like the Doctor and 20 Beaches and like a few different events around the world, but that one was when it just drew everybody before we sort of had a world championship. So yeah, it must have been great to win that one.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah, it was good.
And then you've won many sort of other races. I know you were pretty dominant in Hong Kong as well a few years. Like, how many times did you win that? And when was the first year you went over to race in the Hong Kong Dragon Run?
Twice. Probably about the same time, around 09. There was a period where I think it might have been like maybe 10 and 11, where I went over and traveled and did Hong Kong. Then we went to Dubai, and then we had the Doctor. And for 2 years running, I won all three of those races. So that was pretty good. I thought that was a good run.
Yeah, I think one year I got on my first podium. It must have been 2013, and I think it was you, myself, and who was the other third place? I can see the image, but I can't remember who it was. It was in Hong Kong.
Where at?
I think it was Jeremy.
Oh, probably Jezza. Jezza was up there for a few years. Jezza was always up there when he went there.
Yeah, Yeah, so that was always a good race for me. But so when you were doing that and you were sort of winning those 3 events, and I guess there was still quite good prize money, even back then for those 3 events. I think Hong Kong probably had about $5,000, the Doctor had about $5,000, and then you had 20 grand or 10 grand or whatever it ended up being for the Dubai Shaamal. So I guess it was kind of like a hobby that sort of was turning into a job at the same time, right?
Sort of, not real. I never saw it as a job because like I was always working, so it was more of a passion, and I think that's what kept me going because I did it because I loved it. It wasn't like I've got to get up to do this because there's a race coming up, and I need this prize money to come in to pay my mortgage or something like that. It was always like, well, I'm working. That's what I loved about the sport is you could travel, you could meet new people and stuff like that. You travel through sport, you go to the places that you just don't go on a regular holiday. So it's awesome in that regard. And then you would have I had some good sponsors along the way that would help me get there and stuff in terms of Nello. And and the prize money was just a bonus. Yeah. So it was never like, stressed that I didn't win or anything like that. It was like, that was a great race, had a great time, picked up a bit of prize money along the way. What a bonus. Life's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're just going, I guess, you're going to paddle with your mates, you're experiencing new things, you're having fun, and then you get to like hurt yourself for an hour and a half, and then you finish and you have like some beers with everybody and you're sort of having a good time. And I guess it's just kind of like a bit of an escape, right? Like it's just something that I really enjoyed. And like same thing when you talk about surf lifesaving, sitting on the beach the whole time to do 2 events. That's something that just drew me to Surfski initially, because like, I get to start at 3:00 and I finished at 4:30, and then I get to have drinks everyone, then I get to go home the next day. Like, how good's that?
Yeah, I know. It's just that bit more freedom. It's just, it was good. And like you said, the mates were awesome. Traveling around with the boys was awesome.
Yeah.
So it was good. Because like guys that you train with in your squad, they'd go and race as well. So it was good.
Yeah, and did you have any like memories from Hong Kong where you were just like, that was like a cracking race, or I had to go dueling with anybody where you're like, can you remember anything like that?
Yeah, there was a couple of there was always some good duels along the way. Like Hong Kong was good. Hong Kong was one of those races where you just didn't know because, as you know, you've done it. You go out to the 9 pins, the island, so you paddle into it for a bit, and then you get a really good downwind. And then you hit the Kissing Whales and you hit the Stanley Harbour, and you've actually got to paddle into a flat headwind. So depending on how you're feeling and how much fuel you've got left in the tank, like guys could lose 3 spots or more coming into that last 5K. So, but yeah, there'd always be people close by, or you'd get someone. You could sort of you'd have that little tussle, or you'd see where someone is, and you go, all right, I want to be. If I was behind, I'd be like, oh yeah, right. I'm going to be, by the time we get to the turning point, I want to be level with them. And then it's like, right, from there, I know I've got or something like that. Like, here's a good one. You ask your mate, Brucey Taylor. Poor Bruce, the poor bastard. Do you know this one? You would have seen this one over at the Doctor. Oh, my God. Anyway, I feel sorry for Bruce because he had an absolute cracker race. Like, he was in front for so long in this Doctor.
And it was 2011, right?
Oh, whichever year it was. The year he could have won it, but he didn't. He had it in his hand.
It was like the 2 gangly guys running at the beach.
Yeah, mate. And I'm not a runner at the best. I'm not a runner. Because we came with that race, he was out in front, and then it's sort of one of those ones. Like I said, it's like, right, we've got 4K to go because you race with your Garmin's on, so you know how far the race is. You sort of know how far you got to go, and it's like, right, 4K to go or 6K. It's like, right, he's in front. He's got 100 meters on me or something, right? By 4K or 3K to go, I want to try and catch him. And it's sort of like to start chipping away. And then sort of we had a K or 2K to go, and I'd pulled up and I'd caught him, and we sort of came together with 500 meters to go. And it's like he'd had a cracking race. He was in front. And then we were just run for run. I couldn't get away from him that last 500. He couldn't get away from me, and the chopper was above us and stuff. And then just that last bit coming into the beach, that run finish, I didn't even know it was Bruce until 100 meters to go when I looked across, and it's like, I could be in trouble here. Bruce is a former board paddler, so he can run. They're meant to run. Ski paddlers aren't noted for their running prowess. Just have a look at our long backs. There's no arse. So we haven't got the power to actually get off and run. But yeah, so I just had to give it everything. So we hit the beach coming into that little shore at in Sorrento there, and it was just like I just put the hammer down, just pulled over this little wave in front of us, and it gave me like a meter, and it was all I needed. So yeah, so I got the run up the beach. That was pretty awesome. That one. I'm sorry, Bruce, if you listen when you listen to this. Sorry, Bruce. But
yeah,
it was pretty good.
I was actually watching this.
Race.
I'm watching Rambo's footage just before we came on, and there's actually the footage up there on Surfski Info. So if you want to check that out, go on Surfski Info. Just type in Tim Jacobs, and there's a whole bunch of stuff because I couldn't find anything. I think Tim Jacobs paddling now is like a clothing site or something. No, it's something. I don't know what it is, but it's not. Oh, really? It's not about you. And there was a lot of.
I'll let that one go.
There was a lot of stuff that was on there on the webs on the internet. But did you win the Doctor more than once?
Yeah, I won that twice.
And what was the other year that you won it?
So I think that was the first year I won it, that run up the beach with Bruce. And then the second year, well, I suppose like as we were talking before, it's sort of like, all right, I knew what I needed to do. I sort of knew what I had to do and when I needed to go and how to actually plan the race. And the second year sort of I'm pretty sure there was Jasper, Clint and I. And we were all pretty much together with about 8K to go, and it's sort of like, all right, sort of time to make a move here. And sort of with 6K to go, I sort of put the foot down and paddled away from them and won it by, I don't know, 100 meters maybe or something like that. So yeah, they were the two I won over that one.
Yeah, and that was kind of like always a big race for the sport as well. I think the Doctor must have started back in like 2007 or something like that, or maybe earlier. I'm not sure. But it was always a big event for the sport, and as it is now, it's kind of like the pinnacle race, I think, for a lot of people. What was it like winning that race for the first time?
It was pretty good. Like, it was awesome, like in the style that I won it, running up the beach off from Bruce. And it was always good. Like, you'd run up the finishing chute, there was people on the beach cheering for you and stuff like that. So it was good. But yeah, it's an awesome race. Like, as you know, you get the ferry across in the morning, and then you hang around, and then you do that race. And predominantly it's the 95, 98% downwind race. So, and the runs are great. They're cooking runs, brew.
Yeah, as our South African friends would say.
South African boys. Whoop, whoop.
Yeah. So you really enjoyed the downwinding aspect of it, but did you do any flat water style paddling? Like, did you ever jump in a kayak and compete in kayaks? I know you were coaching Murray for a while.
I jumped in the kayak early. I jumped in the kayak primarily for cross training because it's sort of like, well, I was always the one, and especially like when I did go and coach the kayakers for a while, it was always like technique. It's like, if you have the better technique, you're going to beat someone every day. So if you've got a twin and you're both mentally as strong as each other, physically as strong as each other, and both have the same skills, but if your technique is better, you're going to win every day of the week. That's just what it is. So I got into the flat water kayaking to improve my technique so that it could improve my paddling. So yeah, I gave the kayaking a go for a while. I did it as cross training and then got into racing it. I thought, why not? Let's have an Olympic dream and see if we can make it. I made the Aussie team in 2005, and then that was it. It's sort of, I had a mortgage and kids early on, and sort of they wanted you to paddle full time, and it's like, well, it just didn't work together. So I chose the family and the mortgage and work over it, because I could still do it cross training. I just didn't have the time to put in for what they wanted. So I loved it. It was good, but not for me at the end of the day.
Yeah, it wasn't for me either. So yeah, don't worry, you're preaching to the choir. But when you're talking about you were training obviously for the kayaks, but once you left kayaks, I know it's a pretty demanding schedule. What you're doing when you are in those Australian teams, because I was lucky enough actually to go away with you actually on one of the trips. But
yeah, you loved it. You loved the fun police.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's just talk about you, right? So once you moved away, I got plenty of good stories, but this I'm interviewing you, right? This is how we're doing this.
That's all right. I'll drop them. I'll drop some notes.
Okay. So once you finish the kayaking and you're sort of moving into the family life and the mortgage and sort of finding that sort of training work-life balance, like what was a training week looking like for you in those years, say 2009, 2013, where you are winning a lot of those races that you're putting your name down on?
Probably, I think we paddled for maybe 4 or 5 times a week on the ski in the morning. And then I'd probably go and try and lift some weights a couple of times a week. So that was about it. I wasn't huge on cross training. I did a bit of boxing here and there just because I thought that was some good cross training, which is great cross training.
Yeah.
But yeah, so probably Monday mornings off, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday mornings we'd train early, and then Saturday, Sunday we'd get out on the skis out off the beach, and then a couple of gym in the afternoon, I think. That was about a training week, and then working around like your 40-hour week with that. So.
And what were you doing in your carpentry at that stage? And you're building now, or
residential? Residential building. Yeah, the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you've got to lift lots of weights all day, so you're just a machine.
Life is a training session, mate. I love it.
That's what you want to hear. And so, how did you get involved in coaching? Because if you get up your kayaking in 2005, and you started getting a little bit more heavily into ocean ski paddling, even though you dabbled in it back when you were about 20. What sort of brought you into coaching, and what sort of made you make that sort of change?
It was more just a sea change, I think. I'd been building for probably 12 or 14 years or something like that. Like the Guy Wilding was the coach at N-Swiss, and he decided to resign from that, and there was an opening. I thought, just for a bit of a sea change, I'll give it a go. There was still that thrill in the back of the mind. It's like, imagine being able to go to the Olympics coaching someone, and Murray was a sure thing, so why not? Hey, just ride his coat, just ride his coattails. But no, it was like Murray was a really good mate back then, and we still are now. And it was one of those ones. It was just like do it for a sea change, get in there and do it. So it was good. Like I was still enjoying the paddling. I'd get out. It was quite good. We had a pretty awesome squad down at Narrabeen Lake there training. So there's Joe Brigden Jones down there, as you know, Murray, Simon McTavish was there, and a few other young guys coming through, and young guys and girls. And it was good. It was sort of one of those ones, I think, because throughout my time as a ski paddler, I was always riding my own sessions. So it was, I could sort of turn in, but it also was a really good challenge for me to become more of a coach in terms of look deeper into like that full holistic approach to coaching, where like as a manager, you've got to draw on this bit of information here and information there. You've got your on-water training, you've got your land training, your gym training, and then being able to put it together and manage athletes at the same time. And just how much you could get out of an individual. So in that way, it was quite challenging, and we had some great relationships. I had some great relationships with the guys and girls in the squad. We had a lot of fun along the way, but also very serious because, as you know, like they were training. There was a few Olympians in that squad there. So, they asked a lot of me. I asked a lot of them, and it all worked out pretty well.
So you obviously enjoyed doing that, and as you said, like it made you sort of look at what you were doing and go, right, how do I step that back, and how do I break that down to go, well, this is why you're doing it, right? Like when you're training, you're just doing it because it works, and you're like, oh, that's how I feel good. But then you have to, if you go back into the biomechanics of it or whatever, you're sort of going, okay, well, why does that work, and how will that work for this athlete, and how will it not work necessarily for this athlete because they're training for something different. And I think learning and studying and being a beginner, I guess, in a way, because you're a beginner coach, it's kind of an exciting thing, an exciting prospect.
Yeah, well, it was just like that. It was good. It was like you just couldn't do a blanket program and think, oh, yeah, everyone's going to succeed. It was like you had to really tailor it. Even though you're training everyone as a squad, you really had to tailor it to each individual, those key members of your squad, and make sure that they kept improving and kept reaching their goals and suppose their training targets, that that the progression was there and that they were hitting all their markers and they were going to achieve their goals.
Yeah, that did kill me. Well, no, that did kill me when I was doing a lot of training in those big squads, even going through swimming or surf life saving or whatever it was, even kayaking, and you're sort of just doing this blanket program for a lot of the time. You're like, I just don't feel like this is right for me. And that's something that I learned when I stepped away from kayak and started coaching myself. I was like, oh, well, this is what I actually need to do. Like, why wasn't I doing that already? And it was just really frustrating, the process that you sort of went through after you finished.
Yeah, and it is hard like that because, you do have those top performance athletes, and you do need to tailor it for them. So in terms of like younger guys coming through, it's sort of like, okay, you can adjust it where you can change training, like rest times and stuff like that, and the volume. But at the end of the day, it's sort of like you guys need to realize that this is what you need to do, very similar to this, to be the best. So you can't keep saying, oh, well, we'll have 2 minutes rest when Muzz or Joe's only having one. It's like you need to be able to step it up at some point and get there.
G'day, mate. Good to see the families in the background. Is he your young man?
Yeah, Jai's 13 now, so he's just finishing. They got one more day of school tomorrow, and then they're out of there. Oh, sorry, he's 14. 4 kids, mate. Yeah, he's lucky to remember their names, let alone their ages.
And what's it like having 4 kids, mate? I think you're spanning between 16 and 9 or 8 or something like that. Are they all boys?
No. So Toby's 15. He gets to start driving next March. So, yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. Jai's 14, Lola's 13, and Darcy's 8. So, hang on. No, Lola might be 12. Yeah, Lola's 12.
I'm getting your kids' ages wrong, mate.
Mate, it's hard.
Are you one of those Are you one of those old people now as well, and you sort of list your kids in the opposite order until you get to the right one?
No, I wear. Oh, bloody hell, Toby! I mean, Darcy. Come on, yeah, Darcy, that one. No, I'm not doing that.
Not yet, anyway.
I'm not there. It does happen occasionally because someone's usually like with 4 kids. There's always like there's always like a couple that are good and a couple that have been a bit like shits. So it's like if you just like it changes by the hour sometimes. So you're like, oh, he's been a shit, and just straight away like that name comes off your tongue, and it's like, oh, sorry, that was the person that was being a shit an hour ago. No, they're good now, and now you're being a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So it was like, yeah.
But you always work out which one's
it's always entertaining. Yeah, and it's always entertaining.
And how did you find that balancing, obviously work and coaching and training and all the different stuff, like bringing up 4 kids, like you would have had those or most of those.
Yeah.
And you were still going into Dubai and Hong Kong and these places and going over for the Olympics and that type of thing. How did you manage that balance? I think a lot of the listeners generally struggle to necessarily get their sessions in because they got that for those family commitments, or they've got the work commitments and all that sort of stuff. Like, how do you juggle all of that? Or how did you juggle all of that?
I have an amazing wife, mate. Boom. Right there. Renee is the best. Honestly.
I'll cut this and send it to her.
Yeah. I'll still say it. As you know, like when the kayaking, the flat water, they ask a lot of you. So it's like they expect 3 months overseas every year, and that's what we were doing. And like Renee was on all the kids. Renee, this is Lola.
Hey Lola, how are you?
Lola just lives in a pajama. She likes her pajamas in a bed, but she's very sporty. She's a good.
Is she the 13 or the 12-year-old? Or you can't make that out yet?
12. You're 12, Lola? Yep, 12. Got the nod.
Okay.
She knows. So and it was just Renee was amazing. It was so hard on her, but she got through it. And because you'd ring up, like I'd ring up at certain times. It'd be like, oh, you'd always be up for a chat. It's like you'd ring in the morning. It's just like, I don't want to talk to you now because I'm trying to get the kids off to school. And you're like, oh, okay. It's like,
yeah.
Do they really love me? It's like, yeah, they do. It's just they've got 4 other people to look after, and I'm just over there fluffing around.
Yeah.
Sitting in my hotel room looking after like one athlete.
Yeah, well, you were in that palace in Zolnok, so you just live in like a king, obviously.
Oh, weren't we all? Don't we all remember the Losnok?
Oh, what a place. What a place. It definitely wasn't for me.
Oh, mate. I don't know why more people don't go and visit that place. It should be more, the Lonely Planet should do a feature on it.
I think one of the good things about going to that trip was actually staying in Zolnok, and we were there for probably 6 weeks, or I was there for 6 weeks. I think you guys were doing 3 months, something like that. And I was like in the junior team and then just got blown into the senior team like at the last second. But geez, it was, it made me appreciate ocean ski and wanted to do SUP so much more because of the beautiful places you get to go to, as you spoke about before, because it was just amazing, right? And then when we did these kayaking stuff, it just wasn't the same, and I didn't have the mental fortitude, I guess, to put myself through that to get to those Olympic gold medals. And I have the greatest respect for the guys who can do that, because it's just something that
it's amazing. Yeah, they're so self-driven to be, and like, as you know, a lot of top athletes come across and they're a bit selfish, and and they're not always that friendly. Like, but they're so focused on what they're doing. It's like, yes, they'll let people into their inner circle, but they need to sort of trust you first and know that you're not going to distract them from their end goal, which could be Olympic gold.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're really self-motivated in that regard. But the same, like you're saying, it's just those places. It's not stimulating for someone like you and I. It just wasn't stimulating. It wasn't a stimulating training environment where you're like, oh, I loved it. It was like, how good is this? We punched through the surf, or we did that. It's sort of like that salt water. There's more salt water in our blood than the fresh water. So yeah, it wasn't good. Like, I remember going to Croatia when I was on the kayak team, and you're like, yep, I'm going to Croatia. Mate, we stayed in a hotel on the side of a highway in the middle of nowhere, and we went to a lake to paddle, and then it's like, oh, isn't Croatia meant to be like one of the most beautiful countries? Like, didn't see it. Didn't see it. Yeah. It was like, come on.
Yeah, you didn't get to go exactly to the tourist places where the scene is, I guess.
No, there was no coastline. There was sort of like an edge to the lake, but there was no coastline.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember going on those trips, and it was just like so unstimulating for someone like me who just like I can't really stop doing stuff. Like, I'm constantly having to do stuff. Like, it's in my nature and you'd be like, no, you have to go to your room and rest. And I'd be like, I'm just going to ride down and get coffee. And they're like, no, it's too much. You got to go home and rest. And like, that was sort of like, the level that was expected. And that's like, obviously really works for a lot of people. For me, it was just like, whoa, this is like, I don't know. It just wasn't working for me. But yeah, I think it's really respecting like those Olympic athletes who do those 4-year cycles and fully commit and obviously sometimes get success, and most of them don't actually succeed. So it's a credit to those guys, that's for sure.
Yeah, they're amazing. Anyone that reaches the top of the game and the sacrifices they make are like, they're phenomenal. Like, phenomenal athletes, mentally, physically, just what they can put in and just switch off to make it happen is amazing.
And probably the athlete you've worked the most with is Murray Stewart, and I think he's a good friend of yours as well. But what sort of athlete? What was he like as an athlete, and how did you sort of, I guess, create an individualized approach to the way that he raced and the way that he could be? Because I think you coached him definitely in 2012, but did you do 2008 as well?
Yeah. No, not 8. So no, from like 2011 to the start of 2017. Was how when I coached him. So I suppose for someone, like Murray, he was very self-motivated, like a lot of top-level athletes are. They're very self-motivated. So in terms of coaching an athlete like Murray, it's more managing them. It's sort of like putting it all together, like you said. It's like, not like when you're saying, you've got to rest there. It's like actually getting them to rest and making them understand that is an important part of their training. Like, going and having a sleep for 4 hours is as important as going out there and absolutely smashing yourself for 16K or something, doing a really hard, like high intensity, like lactate threshold or anaerobic threshold session. So it was managing him in terms of everything, in terms of what he did on the water, off the water. He didn't always listen, and some ideas were probably not that good. But to
most of them.
Most of them. They were brilliant, mate. They were brilliant. He'll dispute that, but my ideas were brilliant. So it is, keeping them motivated and keeping them focused on the end game, because like you said, it's a 4-year cycle, so it's a long time. You have nationals each year, but the Olympic cycle is their goal. So nationals is sort of like a stepping stone for them, because they are at that level. So you sort of keep those benchmarks going, and it's like, all right, this season we're going to do X, next season we're going to do Y, because it's going to get us to Z in 4 years' time. So it's keeping it, giving them that motivation in shorter segments for the 4-year term, I suppose.
And how do you keep them motivated for 4 years? Obviously, as you say, Murray's like is self-driven, but if you might have had other athletes where you've had to bring them sort of and keep them motivated for that whole 4 year period, because like they might go on and say like if you do go on to 16 in 2013, they might be, oh, I don't really want to do much, or 14, they're like, no, I'm not really there yet, and then 15 they start crabbing the crack. But how are they always motivated all the way through? Because you've only really got a couple of GPs, nationals, and then the World Cups, and then Worlds, right?
Yeah, so like pretty much they're motivated the whole time, but that's how like going back to like how you tailor their training program. So they'll have an Olympic year, and then the next year it's like, oh, okay, this can be, we can chill a bit and just go back to sort of like not basics, but let's go in and build some base. So the first year of an Olympic cycle compared to the last year look very different on paper in terms of the training they do. Just in terms of like volume, intensity, and stuff like that. Yeah, so it's keeping the training environment and keeping the sessions fresh and sort of different and challenging for them, so that they can keep that motivation and they know that, okay, this year I'm doing this because this is going to benefit me next year, and next year is going to benefit the next year, and the following year is going to get me to the top. You want to say hi, Dust? No, my little grommet. He's crawling around.
He'll get there though, right? It just takes him a while to get comfortable. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I talked you up. Renee just walked past, just telling her I talked her up.
Yeah. I'll just cut that out, so then I can tell her that you've been lying. So you worked with Murray, and did you work with any other key athletes through that period, or was it just mainly you?
Yeah, Joe Brigden Jones.
Yeah,
Joe Brigden Jones was the other one that was up there, and she went to a couple of Olympics as well. She went to London. She missed Rio, but she's qualified. Like missed Rio by like skin of her teeth type thing. Her and Naomi Flood had a race off over in one of the last World Cups to get the final spot. So pretty tough for her missing out on that one. But Joe's another phenomenal athlete, very self motivated, and again, managing her as an athlete was important, and she kept me on my toes in terms of, why are we doing this session? How's this going to benefit me? And it's like, oh, okay, this is going to benefit you because of this, and this is the result that we want at the end of this session. So it was really good for me because they kept me on my toes and kept challenging me, which I really liked.
Yeah. And did you feel competitive through your athletes as well? Like, is it sort of like not like a replacement to racing, but sort of like an in addition to, and you're able to really push yourself as a coach to try and get the best out of your athletes? And did you really wear a lot of that, or were you just sort of like there to support them and their dreams?
Not really there to support. Like what more motivated? Yeah, it was more like I was stoked to see them succeed. That was awesome, but it wasn't like, oh yeah, they're amazing, it means I'm amazing. It was like, no. At the end of the day, they're on the line. All I'm doing is giving them the tools for them to succeed. And it was all, at the end of the day, it was all them.
Yeah.
There you go. You can see his head.
It's definitely.
At the end of the day, it's them, and their success is their success.
Yeah, it's just definitely, I think, important to sort of appreciate the athlete for what they are, and then if they need you in certain ways, and you're sort of saying how you're managing them, but you're also telling them how the session sort of helps them, and then mentally sort of controlling them. So you're sort of doing that real holistic way of coaching. And I think that's what I like to do, and I think that's something that you need to have as a coach, and I think it's really cool. So what made you?
As an athlete, and it's good for the athlete to have buy-in. So I think if you can create that relationship where you have that trust with the athlete, and they trust you that you've got their best interest at heart as well, you'll get more out of the experience, and they'll definitely get a lot more out of it as well, where they feel that they also have ownership in terms of where the direction that they're going in. So because they're across, like you're both across it and you're both on the same, which is what you need in any sort of team, is like everyone, if you all aim, if that's the end goal, everyone needs to be across it, and it's fine, and then everyone knows what they're doing and how to achieve it.
Yeah, and you were coaching up until 2016, I think, and you went to Rio, or did you stop just before then?
Yep.
And then how was the Rio campaign?
Rio was awesome. Rio was very different to London in London, Murray was the focus was the K4. He was also had the K1 spot, but the K4 was priority there. But Rio, he decided to go it alone, have a good crack at the K1, because in London he ended up getting sick just before London, just like as he got to London, hasn't got the best immune system, so changing environments and stuff really played a toll on him. So he was actually he was almost on his deathbed the day before they won gold in that K4. It was pretty amazing. And then with Rio, we got to on our own, so we could sort of okay, where do we want to base ourselves and train? It's sort of it's all on us here to make this happen. So very different. Yeah, we stayed in Italy over there, which is pretty nice, a great training environment, sort of away from most of the people. It was different, but really positive.
Yeah, less distractions, and that's where I think the girls' squad's been training for a long time. And do the guys still training in Zolnok? Is that still sort of their base?
I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where they still are.
Yeah, and then just sort of after the 16 campaign, how did Murray go there, and then what sort of made you sort of go, right, I'm going to go back to building, and I've had enough of this?
Oh, my athletes let me down. That's why I quit. No, it was Rio. Yeah, Rio was awesome. Murray ended up fourth. It's a very bitter pill to swallow to finish fourth. Yeah, and especially with some of I can't say it, casting accusations, but some of the athletes did look completely legitimate that were in front. So a couple of just came out of nowhere, and it's right, what is going on here? But he amazing semi, paddled it the way he did, paddled it perfectly like he was meant to, and then the final, I think he just tightened up that last 250, and where they came over the top of him, and he ended up fourth. So, it was, I felt horrible for him, because it's sort of he's blaming me, and it's all right, how do you take the blame for this? And then trying to get him to sort of feel better, he's just dedicated not the last 4 years, but the last 8 years, 10 years of his life to get to this point. And to come so close, it was pretty heartbreaking to see him after the race and that. So,
and how do you deal with that as a coach?
I think it was sort of lucky we were good mates. Not lucky we were good mates. I think as a coach, it's sort of you got to let them sort of run it. Murray's thinks things through a lot, so. Going through his head, what happened, what could have changed, how did I do it? Could I have done something different? It's very thinks it, goes through it all, analyzes it. But I think at the end of the day, it was just not his perfect race, as opposed to as opposed to his semi. But that's what it is. It's that's what it is. 4 years, one race, and that's what it comes down to. You've got to put it on the line. So. Yeah, it was pretty heartbreaking to see it. Oh, definitely. The guys that do win gold, it's amazing. For them to win gold in London was phenomenal. And to come so close again, I think, in a different event was another phenomenal effort. Just not the result that he really wanted.
Yeah, I think it just is that, right? Because all these things for the Olympics have to come together. You have to have 4 good years of preparation. You have to be feeling good on the day. Your preparation has been excellent. You're mentally strong. You get the right lane draw. You get a good start. And all these things can go wrong in these. I guess it's just it's just a time trial against yourself. You are racing people, of course, and they're pushing you to get the best out of yourself. But at the end of the day, it is just a time trial.
Yeah, that's right. That's what it comes down to. And so, so many elements, the stars have to align to get that gold medal. It's just what it comes down to. And I think, as as any athlete, you've got to, even on a bad day, you've still got to be unreal. Yeah,
you've got to be able to make it happen when it counts, and that's what it. I guess you get judged on as an athlete, and that's why that every 4 years it is such a spectacle and seeing those athletes get across the line. Can you? I feel like you can't hear me right now. Is there something going on with the audio?
Do you hear that music?
No, I can't hear the music.
Was running out of battery. Oh, there was music playing because I think the kids were playing music in the car on the phone on the way home, and I just started having like Hooked on a Feeling start playing in my ear.
Don't worry, I've had music come through on mine and 2 phone calls as well. I'm like, because they both connected, and it's like, I'm trying to like turn one off and then try and work out what you're saying. So it's always quite challenging. The airplane mode doesn't work when it's on Wi-Fi. I always forget that. But so we've spoken heaps about your coaching period, and sort of that was sort of like the next phase for you. But we spoke about the doctor, Hong Kong, Dubai Shaamal, but probably 20 Beaches is where you stamped your mark the most, right? Like that was the event that has been around the longest. I think it's been around for like 30 years or so, and there's a lot of good names on that trophy, including yours 6 or 7 times. What was it like to win that race for the first time? Because you must have won in like early 2000s or around that period.
So. Yeah, it would have been. Again, when you're like a little whippersnapper, I think. So, yeah, I was like the first year I did it, I think I came 3rd, maybe. And it was like, oh, that was pretty good. But it was like, again, behind a couple of Olympians. And then another mate, good mate, Jono Chalmers, he won it the next year just in front of me. And it was like, oh, bastard. And then it was like after that, I got it. And I think I got it a few times in a row. And stuff. It was cool. It's a really cool race to win because, like as you said, like guys travel, like all the Aussies come to that race. So you get guys from WA, Queensland, all over the New South Wales guys come along and do that race. And it is a really good race. The coastline that you get to race along is beautiful. And there's always, like, people whinge about the conditions, like all ocean paddlers, they want it to be downwind all the time.
Yeah, they want to be clean and groomed, and there's no cutting, and it's going to be perfect. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, I want 6 foot runs behind me, and I don't want to paddle. It's like, well, that's not going to happen.
But even when you get 6 foot runs behind you, right, it's hard. It's just as hard or harder because you've got to try and link the next one or get around that one or whatever it is to get in front of those other guys. Like, everyone goes to me, oh, like when I was paddling with you in the double, they're like, oh, like you just paddle so much harder than I expected. Like, I'm like, yeah, because like as soon as you start going faster, you're going faster. Like all these guys who say that you put your paddle down, you're resting on these big runs, like it just doesn't happen unless you're out there doing 340s.
Yeah, no, that's right. You paddle your ass off. It's like if a run's there, you chase it. That's the thing. You don't wait for the one behind you. You've got to go for the one, like you chase the one in front. And then you're trying to get over the one in front as well. So it's, your foot to the floor pretty much the whole time.
Yeah, and when you won that first one, what year was that?
Oh, mate, I don't know. Maybe like, 2001 or something, 2000?
2001, you reckon? I think we had the 20 Beaches results up somewhere, but
they're probably on they'd be on Dino's website.
Yeah, I think JR did a bit of a history lesson on his website, and I think they're all up there now.
Oh, okay.
So, but do you remember who you were versing in that first that won it?
Would have been Jezza would have been there. Dave Kassane would have been there. I don't know who else.
Well, I've only got the winners. So since Jono Chalmers won 99, then you were 2000, 2001. Kissa won in 2002. You won in 2003, and then it was cancelled in 2004. And then you won again in 5, 6.
So put that one down again because I was reigning champ.
Yeah, obviously. So we'll just give you another one. That's asterisk Tim Jacobs.
Yeah, let's make it up. Let's just round it up.
Yeah, and then you won in 6. Jezza won in 7. Mazza 8. Jeremy again in 2009. And then you had Tim, you again in 2010. And then you got a tie that year when you stopped for somebody and they gave you the win.
Equal. Oh, they gave me equal first with Jezza.
Yeah, because you stopped for a paddler
in distress, a damsel in distress.
Yeah. So what was that paddler doing, and why did you stop?
So she was so the girls, I think the doubles and the girls left before us, and I was paddling along. I think we started at Freshie, so we were heading north, and I got to north early, and there was this screaming, like just losing her mind, and she was really distressed, and it's like, oh shit, are you all right? And she's like, I can't do it, I'm scared. I was like, I'm just trying to calm her down. I remember Marty Kenny coming along and just going, oh, you know, do you want me to stay with her? It's like, oh, mate, I'm not fussed. It's okay. I'll stay and look after her. And, you know, in the end, like, no IRBs came along or anything like that. Sorry, Lola's just come in with glue all over her fingernails and put them in dirt, put dirt all over them.
They look amazing, Lola.
So that's the kind of way we roll around here.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then she was just in distress and no IRBs were coming, so I ended up letting her flare off and waiting for an IRB to come and take her to shore. So, and then after that, it was like, while I was sitting there, it's like, you know, it's sort of, I wasn't sitting there going, shit, I've got to get going. And it's like, oh, well, it's probably my race. I'm all over here. But then got going again, and I just started linking these runs up, and I'm like, this is moving. It's like, we're honking along here. And then, like, I was just pushing it. And then next thing I know, I got to a Whale Beach headland, and, like, I pulled up alongside Murray. And it's like, what the hell? I'm like, maybe I'm not that far behind. And then, like, I could just see just in front, there was, like, Jezza was there as well. And it was like, this is ridiculous. It's like I've sat there for 2 minutes helping this lady out, and it's like this chick out, and it's like, wow, I've almost caught everyone. So I was pretty stoked with that. And and then I ended up getting awarded equal first with that one. So that was pretty cool. It was more like the runs were phenomenal. Honestly, they were hooking.
Yeah.
Like, our run unreal that year. And so it would have been cool. That was just what it was.
Yeah, I think it's cool. That's, I guess, the spirit of the sport, right? Like, you've got to be there to help your friends and the people in distress if they need it, because that's what we all do it for. And we want to be sort of like masters of the ocean in a way. You want to have control, and you be able to sort of stabilize somebody who's probably losing in those situations. So I think it's commendable what you did, and I think it's cool that you sort of got the victory, because I don't think I've ever stopped in a race for somebody. I've never had that situation where someone's been upset.
You dog, mate. You're a dog.
Yeah, I'm a dog.
Just stop and have a chat for a couple of minutes and start again.
But that's pretty cool. But you always paddled, I'm pretty sure you always paddled the Nello, or you might have paddled something before that. Maybe you paddled an Epic before that?
I was paddling, Epics before the Nello.
And what did you find, not only about the skis, like, and like the progression of the skis? I know you had a lot to do with the Nello, the 560 at the time, and obviously prior to Australia, he's involved now. But what was it about using that ski? Because I know it was like kind of a custom for you, and not many people had it. Why did you like it?
That ski, it's sort of like I was paddling an Epic and like loved the skis and stuff. They were really good, and you know, I was getting to a point where it was like, oh, you know, I think I've had enough. Like, there wasn't too much. Like, I sort of got to a point, and there wasn't too much other progression as opposed to except for like new equipment and craft. So Nello came along. Like, Nello was huge in the flat water and stuff, and they had awesome athletes paddling for them. They're a phenomenal company and stuff, and the guys that work for them are really awesome. And speaking with Andre, it's sort of like, he's like, oh, you know, we'd love to have you and stuff. And so they brought out a long ski similar to like all the Fens in the Epics to start with, and then he started playing around with a shorter ski, and I got to have a little bit of an input as well on like when they were making the prototype. And they brought this ski out, and it honestly, it just increased my longevity in the sport, because I was at that point just paddling like the long ocean skis. It's like, you know, I've sort of probably had enough here. There's not much else happening. I've done quite well. I'm pretty happy with what I've been able to achieve. And then they brought out this 560, and it just blew my mind. It was like a K1 on steroids, but for the ocean.
Yeah.
So it was just, you were going back to like riding a normal surf ski, like this nice short boat that could sit in between the runs and get over them. It was so narrow and had so much volume. You could just you could basically jump it and skip it over the runs in front of you. So for me, that kept me in the sport for a few more years. With that ski, there isn't too many around. I know Oscar's had a bit of import into it now, and it's not as good. Sorry, but the original was the. But
yours is obviously better.
Yeah, 100% better. But it wasn't a ski for the masses. Like, there's
that many people that can actually sit on them and paddle it. So I loved it. and just like, it was tippy to start with. Then I just got used to it and it just got comfortable. But yeah, so they made a new one. It's a bit wider and everything now, more caters for the masses, which is still a fun ski. But yeah, this little 560 was just, it was the duck's nuts. Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it.
No, you got to love your equipment, and I think having your own input into it and that type of things. Your headphones died, did they?
Yeah. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you way better. I can actually hear you way better than I could before, so it's actually perfect. But now I can't see you. But anyway, now I got you back. But so when we're going to, I guess like for people out there listening, what is it about downwind paddling that you like the most, and how did you approach a downwind? So like, let's say like your home run, you're coming along the heads, or you're going along the northern beaches, and you backwash, and you've got the sort of side swells, and there's a lot of stuff going on. Like, what were you looking at, and how were you approaching the runs?
See, like, my favorite place in the world to paddle is around North Head. So it's not generally like straight. It's definitely not straight runs the whole way around it. There's so much backwash. There's so much water moving. It was challenging, and it's like the Matrix, where there's so many elements there, and you've got to find what's going to work. You've got to find the run. So, and then link it up. So it just, it was mentally stimulating as well to get these runs, to like find these runs in all this backwash and the side wash and everything. And you might have a headwind on you, but you'd still be able to get runs from behind you and stuff. So it was the ability and the challenge to find the runs and make them work for you in all conditions. That's what I loved about it. It wasn't just like, we're going out. It didn't matter what the conditions were. I loved it. It was like, it could be dead flat. I would try and get the most out of myself. It could be howling wind. It could be a headwind, anything. I'd always be trying to get the most out of myself and find and make the conditions as work for me as best as I could. Yeah. So I never wanted to, sorry. And just, like, it didn't worry. Like, I could turn up to any race, wouldn't worry me what the conditions were, where people would mentally, they'd already be broken, like worried about the conditions not being the perfect runs, or the wind wasn't as strong as what was predicted. Didn't care. You train in all conditions. So why not race in all conditions?
Yeah, because I know you did a lot of races on the Sydney Harbour, and you followed that Sydney Harbour series or whatever it was called. I think it still might exist now, and you won that a few times. And did you win any like other international races? Like, did you head over to Mauritius or South Africa, or I know you went to Europe and did Portugal one year for 2013 for the Worlds. I think you got second to Sean.
Yeah, Corey was behind me.
Yeah, so. But was there any races that you really look back on and you just like, that was my best performance?
I don't know. Like, I did Molokai quite a few times. Molokai was hard. Like, Molokai was like a really hard race. I didn't find Molokai. I love a race. Like, I love tactics of going out there and competing with other people and having those nice classes. But I found a test of endurance. So I like the closer races. So anywhere from like 12K to like 30K was great, because you could really race it and have a good crack at it. And tactically, it was really good. Molokai was just founded as a grind. Not because I never succeeded in winning it, but it was just, I never got over there and just like, smashed it. That was great. It was just like, oh, that was hard.
Molokai for you, did you ever win the race? I know you said it was quite hard, it's quite challenging, it's long, it's hot, it's all these different things, but why do you think you never won it, and did you go over many times to compete in it?
There was always a better paddler than me on the day. Like, the best I got second one year to Hank. That was the year it was dead flat, and I chased Hank and Clint across the channel, and then Clint blew up. And then I chased Hank down, got to within a couple of lengths of him, and he got a wave around Hawaii Kai and held that to the finish. I always progressed in Molokai. Like, I think I did my first race when I was 18. So I think I did Molokai about 10 times over my career. So I always progressed. Like, I got better every year, and I got second And then I came back like maybe a couple of years later and I got 4th or something. I'm like, done. That's it. I'm not coming back again for that one. I'm going backwards. I'm getting too old. So, no, like, honest, like that race against Hank, where I got 2nd, was probably my best year, the best I felt in the race. It was dead flat and we were just grinding it the whole way. But what I think I liked about it was I could see Clint and Hank in front of me the whole way, and we just had, and it was good. Like, it gave me something to chase, and it was challenging being able to see someone the whole race, because you do that race, and as you know, in some of your sup races, you start after half an hour, everyone disappears because they've all gone on different lines, and the swell's really big, and you can't see anyone. And you come to the end Hawaii Kai, and the next thing you know, there's 6 people around you, and you're like, where the hell did they all come? And you're like, your ass is hanging out, and you're like a dribbling mess, and you're cramping up, and you're like, oh, I've got to try and sprint to the line and stay in front of them. So the year where I could see Clint and Hank, that was my most enjoyable year.
And what year was that one? 2012?
No, probably before that, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, so, but for you, so you had...
Wait up.
What's that?
Hang on.
You got your notes.
There's a trophy.
Oh, cool.
I think that says 3rd in 2008. So let's say 2009.
Why? Because you got 3rd. And then what, did you not get 3rd that year? Did you get 4th?
No, I got 3rd, and then I got 2nd, and then I must have got 4th the following year or something.
Okay. All right. Well, that's... There's a lot going on in the Jacobs household, isn't there? So you didn't ever win that. Did that ever like play on your mind? Like, did you ever really want to win that race, or you were happy with the wet race that you won?
Yeah, like everything that you do. Like, I'd love to succeed, and I'd love to have won everything I went in, but you just couldn't. So like, I was happy with the way I went because I respected the paddlers that were in front of me. Like, they were phenomenal athletes, and on the day they were better than me, which really, it sort of motivated me to try and do better next time. But it didn't worry me that I didn't win it because I respected the athletes in front of me, and they're exceptional in their own right.
Yeah. And what was it about, like, I guess in general, like about competition, about ocean ski racing, and about going out there and doing your best every time? Like, what kept drawing you to that? Like, I know you said you love being out in the ocean and you like getting up with your mates and going paddling. It was never a chore. It was a passion for you, but you still wanted to win, obviously. You still had that winning sort of mindset, and you're getting across that line, and you're still wanting to be the champion each time. And where do you think that came from?
I think I just wanted to see how good I could be. So it was, I'd line up, and it wasn't, every race was different. Every race was different because of the conditions, because of the course, because of the distance. And it was a way that you'd put together your race plan and execute the race. It was like, let's see how good I can be. It's like, if it's like, let's see how far I can win by, or let's make sure if it's a close one, it's sort of like, with 2K to go, I've got to make sure I can control this race and make sure that I'm even with 2K to go, and then I can lift to that next gear. So, it was just more challenging myself to see how good I could be, I suppose.
And when do you think that sort of went away? Like when you stopped racing and you sort of, like, when was the last time you won? When was the last time you won a race? And when did you know it was time to step away?
Mate, I want to race the Sava. I ran to the car quicker than the kids. That's a win.
Jeffy, you're one of those dads, aren't you? Like, no other kid's allowed to beat you in anything.
Yeah, it's a hard life here. But I think it was just like I'd achieved a lot. Like, I suppose for me, I'd achieved a lot. Not coming, like, we're always active growing up, but it's not like we had a family, like parents that were champions, like, you've got to live up to them or anything like that. It's just like, it was just like I was happy with what I did. I loved doing it, and I never wanted to be one of those athletes that kept going beyond my time and then turned up and had a chip on my shoulder thinking, this isn't good these days, because back in my day, races were run so much better. It was like, you know, I've done like when I was coaching the kayakers, it was like, okay, I've done it. I've had a great time doing it. I think we've had some really good success. Same as my training and my racing. It's like, okay, I've done it. I've had some really good success, and I've stepped out of it while I was still loving it. And I think that's what's good. It's like, I didn't stay there and then get frustrated with it or my ability not being as good as what it used to be or anything like that. It's like, okay, I knew I didn't win everything, but, you know, I'm really happy with it. I've had some great times along the way, and I met some awesome people, and we've all had some really good respect for each other during our races. And it's like, well, let's move on to the next thing. So, yeah, I'm never sitting around at home. I'm still always out doing something, but it's just, yeah, competitively, it was like, you know, I've got the family. It's like, I wanted to spend more time with them.
Yeah, your focus has shifted, and you just wanted to. You've got basically everything that you wanted out of the sport, and you've got everything. You don't want to be bitter like going forward, and I think that's just a great way to look at things. And you can only get, I don't know, the maximum of your potential. And you did amazing. You got so many good results, and you're able to coach amazing athletes. And now your family is your main focus now.
Yeah, that's right. Like, I never went into the sport with an expectation. It was like, oh, you know, let's just see how good I can be. And it's like, achieved it, and it's like, all right, that'll do. That's good, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably a good way to end it today, mate. I really appreciate your time. It's been great to catch up. It's been, I don't know, I can't remember the last time we had a phone conversation, probably like 5 years ago. So it's really good to connect again.
You're probably like, I'll try and call Corey, and he just doesn't answer.
Yeah. Well, you don't even call me. I messaged you like twice on Facebook. You didn't even respond, mate.
Mate, I don't look at that stuff. That's for the kids, that stuff.
I like how you I don't look at that stuff, text me, and then I text you like, I'm not ignoring you, all right? I'm not ignoring you. All right, mate, I'll leave it to it.
All right, Boothie. Thanks, mate. See you, everyone.
Get on with the family. See you later. Cheers. Just lastly, a big thank you to everybody who's been following the BOOTHCAST. Lola and Tim have been awesome guests today. If you want to check out the podcast, go on Spotify, BOOTHCAST, or go on iTunes, check out Apple Podcasts. If you want to watch these, they're doing some great faces. These are definitely getting put up. So thank you so much for the support. And if you want to check out any of these things, check them out. They're amazing. 85 episodes. You're really throwing me off my exit intro. Cheers, guys. Thanks a lot. See you later. Bye.